Hola, soy Vicky otra vez. Ok, ¿cómo estáis todos? ¿Todo bien? Espero que sí. Ok, so in today's video vamos a mirar algunos verbos que en español cambian significan otra cosa en el preterito. So we're going to talk about some verbs in Spanish that change their meaning when we use them in preterite. So they have a different meaning in preterite than they do in other tenses. Now, if you have the Break the Language Barrier Level 4 book, yeah, it is in the top tips on page 7. If you don't have the Break the Barrier Level 4 book, it is available to buy on Amazon, as are all the books. All the details will be in the description. So let's have a look at these verbs. We're going to be looking at 4 verbs that change their meaning, well, not completely, but some of them are quite significant. So the first one is the verb conocer. Now, maybe you know that we have 2 verbs to know in Spanish. We have conocer, to know people or places, and we have saber, to know facts or information. And funnily enough, both of these verbs, when we put them in the preterite, have a different meaning than in other tenses. So, conocer, to know a person or a place. So if you were saying, I know John, conozco a Juan, yeah? You wouldn't say sé a Juan. If you know something about John, some information or facts about John, then you would use saber. But when you're saying you know him as a person, just I know Spain, any person or place that you know you're acquainted with is conocer. However, if we put it into the preterite tense, instead of I know, we put it into the preterite conocí. It's not I knew who John, well, you would only use that in the imperfect, because if you knew him over a long period of time, so you can use it in the imperfect, but if you use it in the preterite, it becomes I met. So if you were saying, conocí a Juan en 2010, I met John in 2010. So, present tense, it's to know a person or a place, and other tenses, of course, but in the preterite, it is met for the first time. So it's not when you met up with someone it's when you meet someone for the first time. So if I was to say to you or anyone else, where did you meet your husband or wife? Say, ¿Dónde conociste a tu marido? Or a tu novio or whoever. So the second verb we're going to look at is poder. Poder in the present tense is to can or be able to do something. And it's a diphthong, so we say like, can you do something for me? Would be puedes abrir la ventana, can you open the window? Or puedo salir, can I go out, etc. In the preterite, it's slightly different because it's rather than being to be able to do something, it's to manage to do something. Like if I were to say to you, did you manage to finish that exercise? Yeah? Did you manage to finish that exercise? So I'd say pudiste, because it's irregular in the preterite as well. Pudiste terminar el ejercicio? And if you use it in the negative in the preterite tense, rather than being something you couldn't do, it's something you refused to do. If you want to say couldn't, you use it in the imperfect. No podía terminar el ejercicio. I couldn't finish the exercise. But if you say no pude terminar el ejercicio, this is more that you refused or failed, failed to do it. So it's a slightly different meaning. It is couldn't, but I failed to finish. And then that leads us, because I was getting a bit mixed up, is querer is to want to do something, of course. Quiero estudiar español. I want to study Spanish. If you put it into the preterite, quise, well, you rarely use querer in the preterite, first of all. It would normally use querer in the past in the imperfect, because we can't normally put a finite start and finish to something we wanted to do. So when we use it in the preterite, which we would rarely do, if we did use it in the preterite for positive, it would still be wanted. But I would always say to somebody, if you want to say like they wanted to buy the car, it's always better to say querían comprar el coche rather than quisieron comprar el coche, unless you're actually specifying a certain day. And if you say no quisieron, or no quise, or no quisiste, the meaning is slightly different from, well, I suppose it's quite a big difference, really. You're not really saying I didn't want to, you're saying I refuse to do something. So, no quisieron comprar el coche, instead of being they didn't want to buy the car, would in fact be they refused to buy the car. So, querer in the past tense, especially in negative, changes the meaning from want to refuse. And then coming to saber, as I mentioned earlier, both saber y conocer change their meaning in the preterite. And saber in the present tense is to know something, like know the truth, know facts, know any kind of information. Saben la verdad, they know the truth. And if you put it into the preterite tense, supieron la verdad, it changes from they knew the truth to they found out the truth. So saber in preterite changes from to know to find out. Again, if what you're wanting to say is they knew the truth, then you must use the imperfect. Sabían la verdad. Okay, so yeah, so going back over those, so conocer in the preterite is to meet, or met, I suppose we'd say. Poder in the preterite is to manage, or if it's in negative, it's to fail. So it's either to manage to do something in positive or to fail to do something in negative. Querer in the preterite can be to want, but probably better unless it's a specific day that you wanted something, better to put it into the imperfect. And in negative, no querer is to refuse to do something, not to not want to do something. And saber, put it into the preterite and it changes from to know facts or information to find out facts and information. Okay, so all those verbs and those little explanations I'm going to put in the description box. Hope you found the video useful. And if you have, please give me a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, which is completely free. There's no charge. And os veo en el próximo video. Muchas gracias por mirar. Adiós.